Okay, so I don't have a lot of new stuff recently because I've not been feeling super great, and I started a new job, which I'm adjusting to because I haven't worked in 5 years. So
Right.
I'm gonna read some old stuff. Thank you. I'm gonna read. The first one is called His Call. He called me when I was alone. He called me when I cried. He called me when I needed help. He called me when I lost a friend. He called me when a friend is all I could want. He called me when I wanted to fly. He called me when I dreamt. He called me when I was fired. He called me when I wanted to dance. He called me when I had been dumped. He called me when I listened to music. He called me when I wanted to see the waves. He called me when I didn't like the people I was with. He called me when I felt low. He called me when I couldn't be touched. He called me when my skin felt like fire. He called me when his skin felt like fire. He called me when he wanted to be touched. He called me when I told him no. He called me after I told him no. He called me and I couldn't exist anymore. He called me and I told him goodbye. Okay. I'm gonna read two of my blog posts, channeling my inner Meg Ryan character.
Oh.
There will be no moaning, though. That will not happen. Sleepless in Seattle, people?
No, that's
Thank you. Okay, first one's called Nightmares. Dreams can be friendly, but they can also be pretty fucking mean. I often have those nightmares of situations that have happened, but they always tend to be 1,000 times worse. One moment I'm gleefully slicing through zombies with double-wielding axes like I'm a character in one of the many video games I play. Then suddenly I turn around and my family is behind me, thinking maybe they're my adventuring party and they're here to help. One moment, a zombie is about to swing at me with its rotten claw-like fingernails, and then my dad jumps in the way to beat it down. Then he turns around, and magically the cemetery battlefield we were in turns into my childhood living room. What was once a happy moment of my superhero, the one I trusted with all my being, has rapidly turned into him screaming at me, and I'm doing everything in my power to hold back tears in my own anger, surging through me like an electrical current trying to find its open circuit. The circuit is found, and that pain and frustration is spewing out of me. I'm screaming back, I'm crying, I'm telling my dad that I won't be treated the way he's handling me. Something snaps in him, and within seconds I'm against the wall, and he has his hands around my neck. Then I wake up, and I'm in tears, pondering why these dreams still haunt me 14 years later and desperately wanting them to end. Many times I wonder how this strange world mixed with fiction and reality has happened to me. Sometimes I lay in bed considering all the possibilities of how my life could have been different if I wasn't queer. Or more likely, pining for a world where the man I trusted just loved me for the way I was, or am. But see, the thing about our wildest fantasies is that they're just that, a fantasy. Something you wish for with all of your soul, but is way less likely to occur than a simple run-of-the-mill possibility. You can't just pray that a fantasy will happen, because it won't. However, that desperate hope for a world you want more than life itself won't just vanish into thin air, and neither will those nightmares. Okay, and the last one is called Complacency or Chaos. I actually wrote this for Memorial Day because my grandfather's a vet, my brother's a vet, so this is important to me. Okay, before I write about the idea that I have grasped in my mind, let me tell you about a guy that is currently in my day-to-day occurrences. For identity purposes, I'm going to call him Tom. Tom is a pretty cool guy. He's somewhat progressive, loves wine and travel, appreciates light conversation, practices martial arts, and can appreciate the beauty of culture. Tom is also a former Marine, and while Tom may have a lot of great interests, Tom also has a military way of thinking. He has seen the yellow eyes of his enemies, he has felt the intense heat of battle, and has endured the constant fear of danger. Now Tom lives in a civilian world, a changed man, a man that has fought for his country, a man that has done a great service to the civilians around him, yet little do they know of it. And he knows it. It bothers him, which also brings him back to his childhood, when he was picked on by his older siblings, yet treated lesser than his younger siblings. He is forced to feel something that others around him cannot understand. so he holds himself to a standard. He supports himself under the belief that he is better than others because he has seen danger under the likes of which no one around him can even try to comprehend. And despite all of the literature and films that portray the danger he has lived, they cannot truly grasp the pure terror that he has experienced, the fear that he may never see his family again, the worry he may never be able to go out in the town with his buddies, the terror that he may never have the chance to marry the woman of his dreams, and the horror that he may never have the chance to step foot on the soil that he calls home. How can anyone who has not lived this nightmare even begin to understand? And as a result of this terrifying experience, Tom has become impatient. He views the world that he has come home to as an unappreciative, he views the world that he has come home to as unappreciative, as selfish, as self-centered. When they complain, he is angered. He is filled with the fury for the lack of ignorance and sympathy that resides in the hearts of the people he vows to protect. Tom begins to become annoyed with disobedience and what is different than what he was commanded to do during his service. He expects people to change. He expects people to understand. And when they don't, what happens? They get irritated. They become uneasy with someone who cannot deal with a civilization that hasn't seen the chaos that doesn't fit with the organized society that they have become adjusted to. Ultimately, imbalance occurs. Complacent citizens of a systematic society deal with uneasy, battle-hardened veterans of war, and the only thing I can think of is one question. How is that fair? How do we as civilians expect to understand the sacrifice that war veterans have made throughout history? I mean, obviously the common saying is nothing in life is fair. Is that really the best answer that we can give? Or is it an easy way for us to cope with things that we cannot understand? As much as one can hope, and as radical as it seems, war must be the cause and peace must be the solution. Yet, simply saying, let's stop war is a childish and unrealistic idea. Obviously, there are going to be bad people in the world, and those bad people have to be stopped. However, how can peace be ever found if all we know is fighting and war? Isn't there a stop to it? There has to be. But at the moment, no one knows. And the best we can do to approach peace is to become better people, to be more understanding, to be calmer, to be less reactive, to think with our hearts instead of our fury, to avoid seeing each other as some hostile alien that wants to harvest our souls, even if they cut us off in traffic. Let's try seeing each other as human beings. That's the best answer we've got, and it seems to be the only one as well.